Hello, mi nombre es Monica De La Cruz y esto es Una Plática. Mexico. When I was young, I grew up in San Antonio. My mother is from Mexico, from San Luis Potosí, and my father's from Puerto Rico. And so we used to travel a lot into Mexico, and I would see a lot of dancing, baile folclórico, and I loved the colors and the movement. And as I got older, I started to learn the history of it. So I went to school, but I went to school for Latin American studies and history. But Mexico City, with all its art and artesanías, are really what inspired me to start painting and start doing my work. And that's an interesting question, because since I'm half Puerto Rican and half Mexican and I had no roots here, I didn't understand what Chicano movement was. I started going to Lanier. I was in private school, but I had a girlfriend who had a boyfriend at Lanier, and he was a muralist, and he was doing a mural on Cesar Chavez. And so I started to understand the culture of that. And I think it's very important to understand that even though we might be Mexican-American, Chicano there was a pride in there that we weren't allowed to have before. And I consider myself a Mexican that works within the Chicano movement because I want to bring my history to other people, the history of my people to the rest of the world. When I was very young, in maybe third grade, I would draw all the costumes from all the different types of dances from Mexico, from Veracruz to Puebla to Oaxaca. And I remember thinking that this was something different from the classical art that I was learning, but that this was art too, and that there should be some way to mix it so that we could understand one culture and the other. I think it's a pinnacle thing to have. I think it's very important. I would not have been introduced to art had it not been for the Guadalupe Community Arts Center, the Instituto Nacional de Mexico, which were my first art shows. Had those not been available, I would have not known what was going on. I think people can come that are being taught in schools art can come and see what their community, what their people, what their heritage is about. And I think part of it is we have to educate everyone at every age of every nationality. So I think these things are very important. Otherwise, who would nurture these people? Who would nurture us? Who would nurture me? No, I look up to humanity as a whole. I look up to people that strive to do better for others, like as a whole, whether it's politically, artistically. I tend to see everybody as human. I think some of us do better for others. I would say that if anyone was my superhero, it would be my youngest son. He has taught me so much more than anybody else ever taught me. And he always makes me think about things that I'd already decided on, and I view them through fresh eyes. One of the things that I'm doing right now with my art is I'm bringing a lot of the Mexican culture into Europe, into Italy specifically, and the fact that we share a lot of things with Italy that people don't know about, nopales, it's huge there, but they don't know we have nopales, and we don't actually know they have nopales. And it's these things that I see when I travel that are common ground, that were brought over by Christopher Columbus, that people think belong to one country and another. I want them to understand how it started. I want them to understand what Mexico really is. What's the difference between Texas and Mexico and Spain? Because I get these questions all the time, and there's a lot of things that are just not known. There's a couple of artists. One woman, her name is Lisbeth Ortiz. She's an artist in Houston. She's very supportive. And I see the work she does, and I see the work she does in the community, and what she brings to the table, and how giving she is with it. And she inspires me to continue on. There are other women artists like Edna Lugo, who I think is fearless. She will try anything once. You know, sometimes you don't want to go outside your shell, even in art. You don't want to try this because you don't know how, but she tries everything. And so it makes you want to continue to do that. The artisans in Mexico, the people from Oaxaca that make the alebrijes, to see the procedure that months and months that it takes them, the patience, the creativity, and then this beautiful object comes out, and it's so from the heart. That makes me very excited. Don't be afraid to jump into something that you're not comfortable in. That's the hardest thing. Don't be afraid of all the hard work, because there's a lot of things. There's a lot of hard work. Don't get overwhelmed. And most of all, create art because you need to create art. It doesn't matter if someone likes it or they don't like it, just create it. It's not up to you to decide who's gonna like it. It's up to you to let that flow through you. So this piece is called The Road to Ostuni. Ostuni is a city in southern Italy. Ostuni has most of the same vegetation that Mexico does. Nopales, agave, a lot of it. And when I was there, I spent 3 months there, I started looking at the things we have in common. They eat the tunas. They call them fiqui de India. And that basically means little feet from India, because Christopher Columbus thought that he had conquered India, so he bought these over. So he thought these were from India, so that's what they called them. I had to explain that they were from Mexico and that we eat everything on it. And so I have a friend that has a beautiful garden filled with everything that we grow here. And so we would go through the garden and look at all these things, that there's a common bound. You know, if you look at the Mexican flag, we have a nopal. It means something to us. Well, it means the same to them, but they didn't understand how much it means to us, and we don't understand how much it means to them. So this was the coming together of two different people into one culture, represented by one plant, and then of course, all started by Christianity. That's why the ex voto is there. So this piece is named Nanu. And Nanu is a xoloscuincle. She's one of the national dogs of Mexico. She has a past where all xoloscuincles are spiritual guides. They were buried with their owner so that they could help them make their way through Mictlan. And that's actually the reason I started painting, was these dogs. I saw what they meant to people and what they meant to the legends and what they meant to the Aztecs. They're over 3,000 years old. Archaeologically, they're one of the oldest dogs. They're called a primitive breed. And I think they bring people together, but I don't think people realize the importance of them. I mean, Frida Kahlo had them, Diego Rivera painted them. They're just very unique to the Americas. They're from nowhere else. They're just from Mexico. And they're beautiful guardians. They used to use them to heal because they run hotter because they have no hair. They're bald. And so when people lay them down, if you have arthritis, of course they're hot, so you feel better. They're extremely loyal, and so it's like, it's very Mexican. They're very intelligent. So I always tell my mother that he understands you because he's Mexican, and that's why he loves you more, because you're from Mexico. So I've painted xoloscuincles throughout the world, and I love them, and I think it's important for people to know about their heritage.